Everybody, bull to the bust, back in the building. BX4 back with another dose. Economic reality. Inflation numbers are out. Today is Wednesday. It's August 14th. Just as expected. The news out today is not good news, but it's being presented as wonderful news, great news. The same narrative that we've seen play out month after month after month. Annual inflation rate slows, that's the key word. It's a positive word, right? Oh, inflation slowing, 2.9%, the lowest since 2021. So prices up still nearly 3% year over year. That's good news. And that's the lowest since 2021. So it's less bad, you can argue. But is it good? No, not really. For 70% of people living paycheck to paycheck, it's not good. We need deflation. But they don't want to allow deflation because that unveils the illusion of economic growth. Remember, the countries that went into hyperinflation, name your countries: Zimbabwe, Venezuela, many more, even Lebanon recently, terrible inflation. They saw economic growth all the way up to and into and throughout hyperinflation because spending is looked at as economic growth, and you devalue the currency, and then people need wheelbarrows, literally in Zimbabwe, wheelbarrows full of money to make purchases, and that's looked at as a positive thing, economic growth. So devaluing the currency, folks, that's the name of the game. Keep rates low, even though they went up, they're still low from a historic standpoint. And prices coming down, deflation, people spending less on things, that's looked at as a negative thing, even though that would be better for most people. Would you like prices to be lower or higher? Right? Do you want prices to be higher so economic growth can look better? Or do you want prices to be lower so things are more affordable, even though it's going to show economic growth slower and lower? Right? Pick your poison there. But to me, I'll take the lower prices, and the powers that be that try to brag about how they're engineering the economy, they can maybe admit the reality of the situation, that we need a lower price situation. We need a lower cost of living. But of course, most people don't understand even these basic things, so they continue to put it out there. Great news, great news. The inflation's so low. Now we need rate cuts, which is going to add to the inflation and make prices go up even higher because people will be able to borrow more money, and they'll be able to withstand their debt loads maybe for a little bit longer. Crazy but true, folks. Oh, I forgot to bring up the screen chat. Sorry, let me shut this fan off. It's a noisy, very noisy fan here. Anyways, let's move on to some different information today. Some other news I wanted to get into today. Got a lot of news on tap. Actually, we're going to try to fit it in a really small time frame here. Chipotle CEO moved to Starbucks. So is that going to be good news for the company? Well, considering people are cutting back on this type of spending, was it $5 for a coffee now for a large one? What do they call it, a venti? Actually, if you just go in there and order a black coffee, and most people just don't want to drink 100%, pure coffee, so they want to mix it with something. If you order like just a medium roast coffee, whatever, and put it with like half milk, they'll only charge you for like a small, even though it's a venti cup. So they won't charge you for the milk, or they're going to charge you for a small. Anyways, one little money saver tip for those of you that have to get a coffee. Let's say you're tired. I was driving back from Riverside, which is about 100 miles north of San Diego, and I was like, all right, I'm tired. I don't want to fall asleep at the wheel. I'm willing to spend a few bucks on a coffee. Normally, I try not to go to Starbucks. So in that situation, I just asked for half coffee, half coconut milk. Pretty good. And they only charged me for a small. So maybe that was just that particular location. But to me, I thought that was pretty good. It was like maybe $3 or maybe even a little bit less than that. So for those of you in Starbucks stock, is this going to give you optimism? You're going to add to your shares? I actually hold Starbucks stock right now. I'm not adding to my shares right now because of the shape of the U.S. consumer. Is it possible that credit card companies can go out and still allow people to take on more debt and increase credit limits for the most part, even though delinquencies are rising? That's possible. If we had a real system of money, or if we had sound money, banks would definitely not do that. But when you have an unlimited printing press in the background that can just replenish the banks for these losses, then anything's possible. So I'm not saying exactly what's going to happen. I just want you to know how this whole thing works, so you can maybe be more cautious, more prepared, and more ready for what's ahead of us here. All right, let's move on here. Some not so good news for Social Security recipients. You're not getting a COLA, cost of living adjustment. You're not getting an increase in that large enough to match even the phony number that we're told. We're told inflation is 2.9%. I think everyone watching this video knows that you're paying more than 2.9% from last year for a lot of things. I mean, my electricity bill alone is up at least 10%, but I'd have to look. It could be even more than that. I'm in San Diego. So the cost of living adjustment here, COLA, not so good news for people living on fixed income. So if you're just getting Social Security, I feel really, really bad for you. Senior, the time has come to steel yourselves for a modest increase in your Social Security check. The annual COLA cost of living adjustment is likely going to be 2.6%, less than the 3.2% 2 years ago. Anyways, so not good news, folks. And you have to wonder how these people are getting by. I talk to people every day at my job. That's what I do. And I can tell you that seniors and people on fixed incomes without a gig economy, side hustle job. And when you're a senior, you don't want to be working gig economy jobs, side Uber driving, all that stuff. You want to be retired. You want to be working less, not taking on second jobs. And people with Social Security now, more and more of them are having to look for other additional sources of income, which is pretty sad. As I am recording this today, Dow Jones back up over 40,000. It's about 11:30 a.m. Pacific time today on Wednesday, August 14th. Could it change before close? Absolutely, but we're up over 40,000 again, folks. So we said this whole thing can be manipulated at the click of a mouse. We saw that pretty big sell-off back on August 5th, almost 10 days ago now, and there was recession talk. There was all this talk about how the economy is bad, and now everything's changed because of the CPI number went down 0.1% from the previous reading, which was year over year number. The previous month was 3%. 90% of markets in the U.S. Saw payments rise on home prices. Not payments, they saw home prices rise. Existing home prices rise in 90% of all markets. And here's the kicker right here, because we just got done talking about CPI at 2.9%. Monthly mortgage payments up 10% year over year. Everywhere you look, it's very difficult to find something that actually only went up 2 or 3% year over year. So this housing bubble, folks, people have been predicting this housing bubble to go bust for years, even so-called real estate insiders, experts. And I've been one of the only ones, maybe the only one, saying it's not going to go bust unless something big happens. Unless you destroy the printing press and destroy or get rid of all these programs that are meant to keep the bubble inflated, it's not going to go bust, folks. It's completely controlled. It's completely contrived, manipulated. Pick your word to describe this. This is not a free market. This is not an organic market. This is not price discovery. Right? It's all manipulated. More rescue programs just came out, and down payment assistance programs. I just saw a down payment assistance program announced in Dayton, Ohio. I couldn't believe it. I almost had to take my glasses off, because Dayton, Ohio is one of the more affordable housing markets. Even there, people still can't get into housings. Sorry, did I say Dayton? It's actually Toledo. Wait till you see the median home price. City of Toledo, Ohio, sees increase in applications for relaunched down payment assistance program. So instead of letting prices come down to affordability, they just find new ways to get people into homes here. Toledo, median home price here, according to Zillow, 122,000. One of the more affordable housing markets in the country. Ohio is very affordable for the most part. And even there, they had to revive this down payment assistance program. You see what's happening, folks? You see why the bubble hasn't went bust. When you have the government out there buying most of the mortgages right now, the government ability to borrow endless amounts of money, just created out of thin air, folks. So got to wake up and start realizing what's happening. And please share these videos. If you don't share these videos, that's fine. Talk to people about the way that these markets, including the housing market, are being propped up and manipulated, right? I just want more people to know how this works, right? This is not about saying, okay, this is going to happen, that's going to happen. Prepare for a deflationary event. That's got to be something big, like a war, a major cyber attack. We've got the WEF out there warning, but a couple years ago now, warning a huge cyber event is going to happen, and that could bring down the everything, the markets, the economy, you name it. And a lot of people may not even survive that because people are so reliant on getting something now, swiping your card, going to the grocery store, all the shelves are full. Now let's move on here though to the banks. Of course, the banks, the backbone of this entire thing, the lending, everything else here. Look at this, $8 trillion, trillion with a T, uninsured deposits could lead to bank failures. But here's the thing: on the surface, you would say, "Wow, the FDIC, they have what 1 or 2% of the funds they need to cover all the depositors." And remember, Silicon Valley Bank that went bust, I believe, in March. Was it 2023? Silicon Valley Bank had many, many billionaires with a B, that got basically reimbursed for the money they would have lost when the bank failed. Some people say the bank didn't even fail because everybody got covered, so it's really not a failure situation. Nobody lost their money. The billionaires, in some cases, people got $10+ billion. Companies and just billionaires alike, they got reimbursed, folks. Why? Because they could just print the money. So even though the FDIC doesn't have the money, what they did was they got together with the Fed, with the Treasury. They all got together. They said, yes, we're just going to create the money, add it to the debt pile, and let's bail out all these billionaires. So, folks, I mean, you can sit there and you can say the banks are going to fail and everybody's going to lose their money. Look what already happened, folks. So, the people that are saying take your money out of the bank, do they know for sure that they're not just going to print the money and reimburse you if you do, quote unquote, lose your deposit? Right? Nobody knows, folks. It's a matter of a decision that's made by a few people. So the question is, do you trust these people that are making the decision to cover you? What if they decide to cover the billionaires and not a small depositor? Like, let's say you have maybe $50,000 or $100,000. Well, of course, that's still under the FDIC limit. And you can say, yes, they'll definitely cover that, but maybe they could change the rules. They've already changed the rules. They changed the rules last year when they decided to go over $250,000 and bail out the billionaires. You think they're not going to change the rules again to say, oh, people with $50,000, they're not important. Let them lose their money. The billionaires, they're the ones that create the jobs. They need to be rescued. Does that sound familiar? Would you be surprised if that happened? I would be a little surprised, but not shocked. That's for sure. Let's see here. Oh, had an article, but it's behind a paywall. Never mind. I was going to bring you some news from Benzinga. They want to make me change, or they want to make me, they want to charge me for my access. Oh, but actually, no, I was able to scroll to the article here behind this paywall proposal here. Electricity bills in California now surpassing rent. At first, I was like, no way. No way. Electricity bills more than rent in California? No. So what they're talking about here is a few areas of California. Prices higher here in California, except for Hawaii. Hawaii is a little bit higher. What they pointed to in the article was rents in Borrego, which is way out in the desert. And they said somebody's electric bill, because it's the desert, they have to have AC on basically 24/7. And they talked about somebody with a $1,800 monthly electric bill. And then the rent was only $1,200, and rent's a little cheaper out in the desert because not too many people want to live there because of the heat and just being in the desert. But yeah, in some areas, the electricity bill, if you run your AC nonstop, is going to be more than rent, which is mind blowing. But Borrego, if you ever want to see Borrego, there's actually a movie called Borrego. If you ever want to take a look at some of the desert scenery in California, actually, from what I read, some of it's shot in Spain. Kind of an okay movie. If you just like the scenery and stuff like that, I watch movies just to see some of the scenery, and I like to watch movies that are based in other countries because I can't really travel much. So I like watching movies just to get my view of other places. That's what you do when you don't travel, right? Watch movies. Try not to spend too much money on movies, but sometimes I watch them. Jerusalem Post. This is interesting. They're proposing the question here: are we returning to a gold standard? Is gold poised to reclaim its throne as the ultimate store of value? The signs are pointing to yes. So we have the BRICS nations out there. They're re-implementing some physical metals into their basket of currencies that they're going to use to trade amongst one another. Some people say this is going to be the gold standard. Other people say this is just going to be um, a fraction of it's going to be gold or precious metals. Either way, get yourself some real physical, tangible currency, because right now is a very dangerous time, especially if they keep these bubbles inflated and keep pumping this thing back into possibly hyperinflation territory. If you see a simultaneous dump of the dollar, like we talked about a few reports ago, there's some speculation out there that a lot of these countries are going to get together and simultaneously dump the dollar in some sort of overnight um, mass dump of the dollar. So it's what they're saying is that's going to be what's a sneak attack against the U.S. dollar. All right, and I'm still waiting to hear back from my source. A few reports ago, we talked about a source that I got a message from that's saying this is going to happen. It's going to be a night of the shift where they're all going to dump the dollar at the same time and sell off a bunch of dollar-denominated debt and treasuries. Right? Am I saying it's going to happen? No. Is it possible? Of course. So prepare for something crazy like that here. Article here: 9 in 10 Texans say housing affordability is a problem. Texas used to be considered a very affordable state. In fact, many people I know from California moved to Texas, and even people that I don't know personally but have just read about moved from California to Texas. 9 out of 10, though, that's pretty interesting because you have the top 10% out there. So the 1 in 10 that says affordability is not a problem, probably somebody in the top 10%. Pretty interesting, right? 9 out of 10 people say housing is unaffordable. A couple more things to get into, folks. Home Depot giving us a warning about the economy. This has kind of been widely publicized on business networks, business channels, and Home Depot issues a warning about the economy. This is out of CNN. Consumers are feeling crummy about the economy, and they're dishing out less on major home renovation projects. Well, also, not just that, the people that are spending money are spending less because they are in a financial crunch, most of them anyways. But also you have the housing market. It's really slow right now. Sales are near all-time lows. They have less housing turnover, and naturally you're going to have less people looking for materials to renovate their homes, right? So I think that's part of it. Yes, the economy's slow. Consumers are starting to cut back on certain types of spending, but I think something they completely missed in what Home Depot is trying to say is that the sales volume in homes has really caused a big drop off in renovations and home upgrades and all that stuff there. All right, one more item and then I'm gonna have to get out of here. Let's talk about used car prices. Manheim Used Vehicle Index, it's been dropping for the most part. It's been in a down pattern or a downtrend, but we did see a bump up here in the past month of data here, the July data. If you look to the all the way to the right here, we see a slight uptick there. Still in a downtrend though. You're going to see ups and downs, just like we saw, last year, ups and downs. A bit of an uptick again, but I believe we're going to start going back down as we head into the fall and the winter months, as the home, or not the home, the vehicle bubble continues to pop and deflate. They're not doing as much to keep the vehicle price bubble inflated as they are the home price bubble, the housing bubble. If they start coming out with down payment assistance programs for cars, folks, that would be scary. I'm hoping that doesn't happen. Then prices will really start shooting back up again. But at least something's coming down. Here and there, some things are becoming more affordable. If the prices are allowed to fall, if we had an organic free market, you'd see big deflation, folks. But when you have fake money that can be created in infinite amounts at the click of a mouse, you know it. They can pump this thing all the way up in hyperinflation if they want to, folks. So keep stacking, everybody. Hard assets. Keep an eye on the news. Make sure you subscribe. Very important time here. We've got possibility of some big black swans coming down and bringing this system to a halt. And it's not just me saying that. We're going to talk about that more in our next report. Make sure you subscribe, everybody. Keep stacking. Big love. Bye for now.